Joining us now, former Texas Congressman Colin Allred. He is currently running for U.S. Senate. All right. Lots of stuff going on in Texas. What are you running on?
Yeah. Well, Katie, I think you're right to note that what we should be focused on in this special session is disaster recovery and relief and preparation for the next disaster. And what they're doing, as somebody who was a voting rights lawyer before I ever ran for Congress, is the most naked and blatant power grab and silencing of communities that I've ever seen. And it's incredibly serious. But I think that here in Texas, we need to have somebody who's going to be on our side. You just laid it out there. These are folks who know that they shouldn't be doing this, but that are only going to listen to one person instead of trying to stand up for 30 million Texans. I mean, we have a saying here about, bootlickers, and I've just never seen anything like this. We used to have, as you know, Katie, a long tradition of Texans of both parties who, whatever you knew about them, the first thing you knew is that they were going to fight for Texas. And these folks won't, and I will. And I'm sick and tired of it.
Why is Texas not open to a Democratic message? Democrats have been trying to make breakthroughs in Texas now for many cycles, both Senate cycles and presidential cycles. And they come relatively close, but not that close. You're talking about how Texans don't like bootlickers, but the Republican Party has a lock on Texas. Why is that?
Yeah, I think what we have to do is get back to our roots. And I spent the last 7 or 8 months, with my kids and couldn't go anywhere in our state without someone coming up to me at a Home Depot or in the airport, telling me how afraid they were of what was happening now, telling me how worried they were about what's happening in our state and in our country. And I think we have to get back to our roots of talking to working people and making sure that we don't just tell them, but show them that we're going to be on their side. I mean, that's my story. I was raised by a single mother who was a public school teacher. I went to our public schools, struggled growing up, but because of some folks in my life and my community, I was able to play in the NFL and become a voting rights lawyer and serve in Congress. And now I want to get back to this great state. And I think we have a lot of folks who are out there who are looking for someone who's going to be on their side. There were a lot of promises made in the last election about lowering working people's costs, about helping them get by during times like this. And they were lied to. It was a bait and switch. We saw that in this bill they just passed. It's going to raise costs for working people, all to cut taxes for the rich. And we have to make sure they know that. And we have to keep fighting for our state. I'm never going to give up on my state. I'm a 4th-generation Texan. I know who we are, and we have to make sure we show that.
I want to play one of the flood victims testifying in front of the Select Committee on the disaster response. Here is Joseph Shop.
This was a complete failure, ineptitude from every part, from our governor who says we're not going to point the finger and play the blame game. That's for losers. That's what he said. That's what losers do.
He was actually just attending. So what would you do if you are elected into the Senate to represent Texas? How would you respond to flooding? How would you prevent it from happening again, from happening in this way again?
Yeah. Well, we know that we're going to have more extreme weather events just incredibly regularly. We're having a 100-year flood every few years. That we have storms like Hurricane Harvey that 100-year storms that are going to be happening much more regularly. We just had a record forest fires and fires in the Panhandle last year, and so this is going to keep happening. And so what we have to have is overlapping and redundant systems to try and protect people, to notify them of what's coming. So it's not just sirens, it's not just text messages, it's not just social media postings and signage, but that it's all of those things. That's how you notify people in the instant of the crisis. But you also have to prepare ahead of time for what is coming by hardening your infrastructure, making sure that, for example, the lights don't go out when you get a winter storm, which we've had here in Texas, making sure that you're prepared for what we know is coming. And you have to have positions filled that are critical for notifying people and for coordinating responses both during the crisis and after it. And that's what we've not seen here. And when you talk about, cutting, some of these positions, well, one of those positions was a critical role in coordinating the emergency response, in that area in the Hill Country in Texas. That seems pretty important. And then when FEMA is slow to respond or is limited in their response because of what they have at their disposal, because you want them to get rid of FEMA, then you can't help people recover. And so it all works together. You have to have leaders who care and who think about this ahead of time and then also help you recover afterwards.
What about immigration? What should the Democratic message be on immigration?
We have to talk about it. I mean, my family's from the border, from Brownsville. My grandfather was a customs officer there. Spent a lot of my life there. We have to put forward a plan of what we know will work, that will secure our border, but that also can fix a deeply broken legal immigration system. And that to me is something where I've been frustrated at times that we've been, sort of, you see some folks maybe not wanting to talk about that. I know what we need to do. I think there is a bipartisan consensus that could be reached in terms of, having, funding for border security, reforming our legal immigration system, and putting in place a plan for folks who are here, who are undocumented, but who have been here for a certain amount of time, who have followed the law, so they can bring them out of the shadows. We know what that framework looks like. We have to have leaders in place who want to actually do it and aren't afraid to do it. I know that, certainly some of the folks that we've had representing our state have wanted to use this only as a political issue instead of trying to solve it. I certainly wouldn't do that.
Colin Allred, really good to have you. Thank you so much for joining us.